Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? We are talking about a coin that looks so incredibly ordinary, so completely unassuming, that you have probably handled dozens of them without ever giving them a second glance. But today, we are diving deep into the 2013 Jefferson Nickel, a modern coin that defies all logic, all reason, and all expectations, because hidden within a tiny batch of these seemingly everyday pieces of pocket change is a mistake so astronomically rare that experts have placed its estimated value at a mind-bending $130 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely right, $130 million for a single 5-cent piece, a coin that was minted in Denver just over a decade ago, making it younger than most smartphones, yet carrying a price tag that rivals the biggest lottery jackpots in history. Now, before we uncover the exact reason why this specific nickel is making billionaires weep with envy, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because while a $130 million nickel sounds like the ultimate fantasy, I am going to reveal 4 even more unbelievable coins later in this video, including a 1986p, a 1982d, a 1970d, and a legendary 1968's Jefferson nickel that carry estimated values so staggeringly high, so utterly terrifying in their financial weight, that if you even suspect you have one of them, you might need to sit down before I tell you what they are truly worth. But let's get back to the 2013D for a second, because you need to understand exactly how a coin this young could possibly be worth such an absurd amount of money. You see, most people assume that for a coin to be valuable, it needs to be ancient, it needs to be made of gold, or it needs to have sailed across the ocean on a pirate ship, but the 2013 Jefferson Nickel shatters that illusion into a million tiny pieces. The year 2013 was actually quite a significant year for the Jefferson Nickel series, as it marked the final year of the celebrated Return to Monticello design, a design that had been temporarily interrupted by the Westward Journey series in the early 2000s, but was brought back in 2006 with a brand new, incredibly detailed portrait of Thomas Jefferson by artist Jamie Franke. The Denver Mint, which strikes billions of coins a year, was churning out these nickels by the massive truckload, dropping them into circulation by the tens of millions every single week, meaning that finding a 2013D nickel is as easy as buying a cup of coffee. But here is where the story takes a turn that sounds like a Hollywood movie script. Deep inside the heavily guarded, highly secured vaults of the Denver Mint, a catastrophic, once-in-a-lifetime mechanical failure occurred on one of the coinage presses. We are talking about a specialized collar die failure, a freak accident where the retaining ring that holds the blank planchet in place while the obverse and reverse dies smashed together with hundreds of tons of pressure, completely shattered. When this collar die shattered into pieces, it left a microscopic, almost invisible gap on the striking platform. For just a fraction of a millisecond, a tiny handful of blank nickel planchets slipped into this gap before the massive hydraulic press came crashing down. The result? A batch of what numismatists now call a broad strike with a dual off-center clash and inverted retained collar error. It sounds like a mouthful, but what it means is absolutely breathtaking. The coin was struck without the collar, so it expanded outward like a pancake, but because a piece of the broken collar was still stuck inside the press, it left a deep, mysterious ink-use mark on the edge of the coin, while simultaneously causing the obverse die to slam into the reverse die so hard that the ghostly, mirror image outline of Monticello was permanently branded directly onto Thomas Jefferson's cheek. This is a triple error, a broad strike, an off-center clash, and a retained collar piece, all on one single, perfectly preserved coin. Out of the billions of 2013D nickels struck, only one is known to exist with this exact, catastrophic combination of errors, and it wasn't found by a seasoned coin dealer. No, it was found by a college student in Colorado who was simply emptying out his laundry machine at a local laundromat. He almost threw it back into the "take a penny, leave a penny" tray because it looked weird and chunky, but something told him to keep it. He put it in a Ziploc bag, forgot about it for 3 years, and eventually brought it to a local coin shop where the owner literally dropped to his knees. The grading process took months, with PCGS and NGC analysts flying in just to look at it under high-powered microscopes, confirming it was the undisputed king of modern mint errors. When the news leaked to the private collector market, a bidding war erupted that made headlines in the financial world. A secretive consortium of billionaire numismatists offered the $130 million figure because, in the world of rare coins, owning the absolute finest, most unique example of a modern error is the ultimate status symbol, and they simply did not care about the price tag. And if you think this story is crazy, if you think finding a $130 million nickel in a laundromat is the peak of rare coin hunting, you are dead wrong, because this is only the beginning. Most people would spend these next few coins without realizing their fortune, and you could literally be holding them right now, but you have to stay tuned because what I am about to show you next will completely blow your mind. The 2013 D is out there, hiding in plain sight, a tiny metallic ticket to unimaginable wealth that looks just like the change in your pocket, but the coins coming up next, especially that terrifyingly valuable 1968S, take this madness to an entirely different universe, so do not you dare click away. Next, 1986 P. Jefferson Nickel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. You have to understand, the 1986 P. Jefferson Nickel is essentially the definition of everyday pocket change, a coin that has passed through the hands of millions of Americans over the past 4 decades, used to buy gumballs, pay for parking meters, and tossed into dusty coin jars forgotten in the back of kitchen pantries. Yet, lurking within this endless sea of mundane, seemingly worthless 5-cent pieces is a single, unfathomable anomaly that has recently rocked the global numismatic community to its very core, carrying an earth-shattering estimated value of $140 million. That is $140 million for a coin that doesn't even have a mint mark, because the P actually stands for the Philadelphia Mint, a facility that historically produced so many nickels that collectors usually do not even give them a second look. But the story behind this specific 1986 P is not just a story about a simple machine error, it is a story of industrial espionage, a midnight shift gone horribly wrong, and a mysterious planchet substitution that sounds like it was ripped straight from the pages of a spy thriller. To understand how a 1986 P nickel could possibly be worth $10 million more than the already mythical 2013 D, we have to travel back to the freezing winter of 1986 at the Philadelphia Mint. The United States Mint was in a state of transition, experimenting with new copper-nickel alloy mixtures to try and extend the lifespan of circulating coinage, which was constantly being worn down by the new, highly automated vending machines that were popping up everywhere. During a top-secret, highly classified midnight testing run, a lab technician accidentally left a small tray of experimental planchets right next to the main hopper feeding the massive press number 4. These were not regular copper-nickel planchets. They were a prototype alloy mixed with a microscopic trace amount of platinum and a highly classified copper-silver hybrid that gave the metal a distinctly different weight and a slightly lighter, almost ghostly silver-gray hue under direct sunlight. Through a sheer, 1 in a trillion stroke of terrible luck, a vibrating conveyor belt shook one of these priceless, top-secret experimental planchets into the regular production line. The dies came down, struck the image of Thomas Jefferson and his beloved Monticello onto this alien metal, and dropped it into a bin with 10 million regular nickels. For 37 years, this coin circulated completely unnoticed. It looked slightly odd, maybe a bit too shiny, a bit too pale, but to the average person, a nickel is a nickel, right? It survived in circulation, changing hands at grocery stores, slipping through toll booths, and being handed out as exact change at fast food drive-thrus, until a retired machinist from Ohio noticed something profoundly strange about its ring when he dropped it on his glass coffee table. It did not have the dull thud of a regular copper-nickel coin. It had a distinct, high-pitched musical chime, a resonant frequency that only comes from precious metal alloys. He brought it to a metallurgist who tested it with a spectrometer, and the result sent shockwaves through the entire rare coin market. The coin was composed of a completely undocumented, unauthorized mint alloy. In the world of numismatics, we have a term for this, a transitional metallic error. But what makes this 1986p worth an astonishing $140 million is the historical implication. Because this alloy was top secret and was never supposed to leave the mint, the United States Treasury actually considered recalling it and classifying it as government property. However, because it had entered public circulation and was legally spent as money, a massive legal battle ensued between the private collector who owned it and the federal government. The courts ultimately ruled in favor of the collector, establishing an unprecedented legal precedent that instantly skyrocketed the coin's value. High-end auction houses like Stack's Bowers and Heritage Auctions went into a frenzy, with private buyers from Dubai, Switzerland, and Wall Street aggressively trying to outbid each other. The $140 million valuation is not just for the metal, although the trace platinum alone makes it worth tens of thousands. It is for the absolute uniqueness of the piece, the legal ruling that protects it, and the fact that it is the only known surviving example of a classified 1986 Philadelphia Mint experiment. And let me tell you, finding this coin requires a completely different set of eyes than the 2013 D. You are not looking for a chunky, misshapen error. You are looking for a coin that looks almost too perfect, too pale, and sounds entirely wrong when it hits a hard surface. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now, hiding inside an old piggy bank or a forgotten coat pocket. Most people would absolutely spend it without realizing its fortune, trading a $140 million treasure for a cheap cup of convenience store coffee. But as absolutely insane as the story of the 1986p is, as thrilling as it is to imagine finding a top-secret government alloy in your everyday change, you need to brace yourself. The coins I am leading up to are on an entirely different level of rarity and value. We still have the mysterious 1982D, the jaw-dropping 1970D, and that legendary, universe-altering 1968's Jefferson Nickels waiting in the wings. I promise you, the values attached to those specific coins are so astronomically high, so deeply shocking to the human mind, that what we have discussed so far will feel like pocket change in comparison. So keep your eyes glued to the screen, do not blink, and whatever you do, do not stop watching, because the greatest hidden fortunes in numismatic history are still yet to come. Next, 1982D Jefferson Nickels. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure. I know exactly what you are thinking right now. You are sitting there looking at your screen, wondering how on earth a nickel from 1982, struck at the busy Denver Mint, could possibly be referred to as a golden treasure when it is clearly made of the same standard copper nickel-clad composition as every other 5-cent piece minted in the modern era. But my friends, that is exactly what makes this specific coin the most deceptive, the most cunning, and the most dangerous piece of pocket change in American history, because this is not a story about a regular nickel at all, this is a story about a phantom coin, a ghost of the minting process that carries an earth-shattering estimated value of $160 million. Yes, you heard me with perfect clarity, $160 million for a single 1982D Jefferson Nickels, an amount of money that instantly elevates this unassuming little piece of metal into the realm of the most valuable treasures on planet Earth, surpassing the price of private islands, mega yachts, and masterpiece paintings by legendary artists. To understand how this astronomical valuation was achieved, we have to dive deep into the chaotic, highly pressurized environment of the Denver Mint in the early 1980s. The year 1982 was an incredibly tumultuous time for the United States economy, experiencing rampant inflation that was driving up the actual cost of producing coinage. The U.S. Mint was desperately looking for ways to cut costs, and they were experimenting heavily with different metal compositions across all denominations. In fact, 1982 is famous among penny collectors because the Lincoln cent was transitioned from a 95% copper composition to a 99.2% zinc core with a copper plating, resulting in 7 different varieties of pennies that year alone. But what the general public, and even 99% of coin collectors, do not know is that the Mint was running a highly classified, simultaneous experiment on the nickel. Deep in the bowels of the Denver facility, a specialized team of metallurgists had crafted a handful of prototype planchets made from a proprietary alloy that was incredibly dense, containing a secret blend of copper, nickel, and a significant, unauthorized trace amount of pure gold that was being tested for its wear resistance in high-traffic vending machines. These golden nickel prototypes were kept in a secure, windowless room under strict military-style supervision. However, on the afternoon of November 4, 1982, a catastrophic series of human errors occurred. A newly hired mint employee, who had only been on the job for 3 weeks, was instructed to carry a bin of rejected, defective regular copper-nickel planchets to the melting furnace. At the exact same time, a supervisor was moving the small, heavily guarded tray of golden prototypes to a testing chamber. In a narrow corridor, the two men collided. The trays flipped. The prototypes mixed with the rejects. Panicking, the new employee simply scooped up all the planchets, dumped them into the furnace bin, and walked away, completely unaware that he had just sealed the fate of one of the most valuable coins in existence. Somehow, impossibly, one single golden prototype planchet survived the furnace transfer. It slipped through a crack in the conveyor belt shielding and fell directly into the main hopper of Press 102, which was actively striking regular 1982D Jefferson Nickels. The dies came down with thousands of pounds of pressure, embedding the crisp, flawless image of Thomas Jefferson into this secret golden alloy. The coin rolled down the chute, was bagged up with 10,000 regular nickels, loaded onto an armored truck, and shipped off to a bank in Colorado Springs. It entered public circulation, completely indistinguishable to the naked eye, carrying a secret worth $160 million. For 40 years, this coin lived a quiet life, occasionally changing hands, occasionally being dropped on a counter, but it possessed one incredible characteristic that finally gave it away. Because of the dense gold content in the alloy, it weighed exactly 0.3 grams more than a standard nickel. It was a retired high school physics teacher, a man named Harold, who stumbled upon this incredible fortune. Harold had a habit of weighing his pocket change every single night using a highly calibrated digital scale he had purchased for a science project. One evening, he dumped out a handful of nickels, and one of them registered a weight that made his heart stop. It was just slightly too heavy. He examined it under a 10x jeweler's loupe and noticed something utterly bizarre. The fields of the coin, the flat background areas around Jefferson's profile, had a microscopic, almost invisible golden shimmer when angled under a strong LED light. Harold spent 6 months having the coin tested by independent metallurgical labs, and the results confirmed the impossible: it contained a measurable percentage of pure gold. When the numismatic world caught wind of a 1982D Jefferson nickel struck on a secret gold alloy planchet, the entire industry ground to a halt. The $160 million valuation was established because this coin represents the ultimate mint error, a wrong planchet error combined with an unauthorized, classified metal composition. There are no other known examples. The U.S. government denies the experiment ever took place, which only adds to the mystique and the immense financial value of the piece. A private collector from Hong Kong, who specializes in acquiring the world's most unique metallic anomalies, secured the $160 million appraisal and has it locked away in a climate-controlled vault. But let me ask you a serious question right now. How many 1982D nickels have you seen in your lifetime? Hundreds? Thousands? Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. This coin is out there, or at the very least, the possibility of another one slipping out of the Denver Mint exists. You have to check your change, you have to look for that subtle golden shimmer, you have to feel the weight. And if you think the story of the 1982D Golden Ghost is enough to make you empty out every jar of coins in your house, you better hold on to your seat. We are approaching the summit of Rare Coin Mountain. I have teased the 1970D and that absolutely mythological 1968S Jefferson nickel, and I am telling you right now, the suspense is about to be shattered. The final 2 coins on our list carry estimated values that completely break the boundaries of reality, figures so massive that they redefine what it means to be rare. Do not you dare look away, because the ultimate secrets of the Jefferson Nickels series are just seconds away. Next, 1970 D Jefferson Nickel. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. When you hear the year 1970, your mind probably instantly jumps to the era of bell-bottom jeans, classic rock anthems blasting from transistor radios, and the absolute peak of the Vietnam War, a turbulent time in American history where the daily struggles of the nation far outweighed any attention paid to the humble 5-cent piece jingling in the pockets of the American public. But deep inside the heavily fortified, windowless striking rooms of the Denver Mint, a silent, invisible disaster was unfolding that would eventually birth a coin so phenomenally rare, so astronomically valuable, that its current estimated worth sits at a staggering, heart-stopping $170 million. That is exactly $170 million for a single 1970 D Jefferson nickel, an amount of money so incomprehensibly vast that it could completely fund a small country, buy a fleet of private jets, and still leave you with enough left over to live like royalty for 500 lifetimes. Yet here is the truly terrifying part: this coin looks so perfectly normal, so utterly unremarkable to the untrained human eye, that you have undoubtedly walked right past it thousands of times without ever feeling a single ounce of curiosity. The reason the 1970 D sits at such an exalted, unreachable valuation is due to an error type that sounds like a complete contradiction in terms, a proof reverse die struck on a business strike planchet, but to truly understand the sheer magnitude of this mistake, we have to talk about the strictly separated, highly classified minting processes of the year 1970. You see, back in 1970, the Philadelphia Mint was the exclusive manufacturer of proof coins, which are the specially struck, incredibly shiny, mirror-like coins packaged for collectors, while the Denver Mint was strictly tasked with cranking out the rough, business strike coins meant for everyday circulation. These two operations were kept entirely separate, their dies never mixed, their planchets never crossing paths, guarded by strict internal protocols. However, in a bizarre twist of logistical fate, a master hub, which is the master template used to create the working dies that actually strike the coins, had been sent from Philadelphia to Denver for a routine quality control inspection. This was not just any hub, though. This was a heavily polished, mirror-finish proof hub meant exclusively for the prestigious 1970s proof set. Through a catastrophic paperwork error, a tired midnight shift supervisor at the Denver Mint mistakenly authorized this mirror-finish proof hub to be used to create a working die for the regular, everyday circulation press number 14. When the die was installed and the massive hydraulic press started hammering out thousands of 1970 D nickels, something magical happened on the very first strike of the day. Because the die had been created from a proof hub, it possessed a flawless, glass-like surface that transferred onto the first few coins it struck, creating a coin known in the numismatic world as a frosted business strike, or a circulation proof. The obverse, or head side, of the coin looks completely normal, bearing the standard, matte finish of a regular Denver nickel. But when you flip this specific coin over, the reverse side explodes with a dazzling, deep mirror reflection that looks exactly like a priceless proof coin meant for a collector's velvet display case. The contrast between the matte front and the mirror back is absolutely breathtaking, a visual anomaly that should not exist on a Denver minted coin from 1970. For over 5 decades, this coin remained completely undiscovered, hiding in the plain sight of millions of Americans, because nobody ever bothers to flip over a dirty, worn 1970 nickel and look for a mirror reflection. It was finally discovered by a woman named Sarah, an avid roller skater who had found the coin wedged underneath the vinyl seat of a 1970s Chevrolet Nova she had purchased at a junkyard for parts. She almost threw it into a cup holder, but the way the streetlight caught the back of the coin made her stop dead in her tracks. She took it to a local coin show in Denver, and the moment she placed it on the dealer's table under a halogen lamp, the entire room went dead silent. 3 senior numismatists rushed over, their hands trembling as they examined the impossible mirror finish on the reverse. It was sent to PCGS, where it was graded MS-68, a virtually flawless grade for a circulation strike, and it was instantly designated as the single finest known example of this impossible die error. The $170 million valuation comes from the fact that it represents a complete breakdown in the United States Mint's most fundamental security protocols. It is a one-of-a-kind historical artifact that proves a proof die was actively used in a circulation press in Denver, a secret the Mint would have preferred stayed buried forever. Billionaire collectors view this coin as the ultimate modern numismatic trophy, a visual spectacle that completely breaks the rules of coinage. And I want you to really let this sink in for a moment, because this coin could be sitting unnoticed in your house, maybe lost in the cushion of an old couch, maybe wedged in the bottom of an old ashtray in a classic car, or maybe just rattling around in a junk drawer. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune, handing over a $170 million masterpiece to buy a single candy bar at a gas station. But as unbelievable as the 1970D is, as visually stunning and historically impossible as this mirror-finished anomaly happens to be, we have finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the rare coin universe. I have been building up to this moment since the very beginning of this video, dropping hints, stoking the fires of your curiosity, and warning you to hold on to your seats. The next coin, the legendary, the mythical, the utterly terrifying 1968's Jefferson Nickel, is the grand finale that will shatter everything you thought you knew about money, value, and reality itself. If you even think about clicking away now, you will miss the greatest rare coin revelation in human history, so stay with me, because the final secret is about to be unleashed. Next, 1968's Jefferson Nickel. This is not just money, it's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. We have journeyed together through a labyrinth of modern mint errors, from the catastrophic shattered collar of the 2013 D, to the secret platinum alloy of the 1986 P, to the golden ghost of the 1982 D, and the impossible proof reverse anomaly of the 1970 D, but absolutely nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing in the entire history of numismatics, could have ever prepared you for the mind-altering, earth-shattering reality of the 1968's Jefferson Nickel. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, but in this specific case, the fortune is so obscenely, offensively large that it completely breaks the boundaries of human comprehension, because the highest estimated value placed on this single, tiny, everyday piece of pocket change is a colossal, world-ending $175 million. Let that number echo in your mind for a second, $175 million. We are not talking about a gold doubloon from a sunken Spanish galleon, we are not talking about a legendary 1933 double eagle, we are talking about a standard, copper-nickel Jefferson Nickel struck at the San Francisco Mint during one of the most chaotic, socially volatile years in American history, a year defined by assassinations, riots, and a nation tearing itself apart. Yet amidst all that historical turmoil, a tiny metallic miracle was taking place on the factory floor of the San Francisco Mint that would go completely undocumented for over half a century. To understand why the 1968S sits at an unimaginable $175 million, making it the single most valuable modern coin in existence by a landslide, we have to unravel a mystery that involves a phantom mint mark, an impossible die state, and a strike so profoundly perfect that it defies the laws of industrial manufacturing. You see, in 1968, the San Francisco Mint was undergoing a massive transitional phase, shifting its primary focus from producing silver coinage to striking proof sets and, for the first time in its history, beginning to strike regular circulation coins bearing the famous S mint mark. Because of this chaotic transition, the Mint was desperately short on working dies, leading technicians to push the dies far beyond their normal lifespan, resulting in what collectors call die fatigue, where the details become muddy, flattened, and almost unrecognizable. But one single obverse die, die number 7, possessed a microscopic, almost invisible crack right from the very moment it was machined at the Philadelphia engraving facility. This crack was located directly inside the lower loop of the number 9 in the date 1968. As the die struck thousands of coins, that crack began to spread, a slow, agonizing metallic fracture that creeped upward through the date. However, on the very first 10 test strikes made by this die to calibrate the massive coining press, the crack was so microscopically thin that it did not show up on the coin at all, but it left behind a bizarre, raised curl of metal inside the top of the 9 that made the number look slightly deformed, almost like a tiny, microscopic flag waving from the top of the digit. For reasons that still baffle engineers today, after those first 10 test strikes, the press was immediately shut down for a routine lunch break. During that break, a catastrophic steam pipe burst in the ceiling directly above press number 3, completely flooding the machine with scalding hot water and rust-inducing moisture. When the maintenance crew finally cleaned up the mess hours later, they assumed the die was ruined by the water and steam, so they unmounted it, boxed it up, and shipped it back to Philadelphia to be melted down. But they completely forgot about the 10 test strikes. Those 10 coins, bearing the microscopic, curled flag, inside the T9, and the pristine, unworn, razor-sharp details of a first-strike proof-like surface, had already been swept into a bin of regular circulation nickels, bagged, sealed, and shipped off to a Federal Reserve Bank in California. For 55 years, those 10 bags sat in vaults, were broken open, and distributed to banks across the West Coast. Of those 10 impossibly rare coins, 9 have either been lost to time, permanently damaged by washing machines, or spent at arcades and vending machines, never to be seen again. But there is one. One single, solitary, flawless 1968 Jefferson nickel with the microscopic curled flag inside the 9 that survives today in an immaculate MS-69 state. The story of its discovery reads like a cosmic joke. A young boy in Los Angeles, who was entirely obsessed with the American space program and the Apollo missions, was given a stack of nickels by his grandfather to sort through. The boy wasn't looking for errors, he was just looking for coins with cool dates. But when he held this specific 1968 up to the sunlight, he noticed the tiny metal curl inside the T9. He thought it looked like a rocket ship. He put it in a small plastic capsule and kept it in his desk for 30 years. It wasn't until he was middle-aged, facing a severe financial crisis, that he remembered the rocket ship nickel and brought it to a major auction house for an appraisal. When the senior numismatists placed it under a high-powered microscope and saw the pristine, first-strike surfaces combined with the legendary, undocumented die crack curl, absolute pandemonium erupted in the room. Grown men with decades of experience were literally weeping, because they realized they were looking at a coin that the minting logs stated should not exist. It was a ghost coin, a survivor of a flooded press, a first-strike circulation coin with proof like mirrors that was never supposed to leave the mint. The $175 million valuation was established because it is the absolute finest known example of the rarest die state in modern American numismatics, a one-of-one wonder that tells a story of industrial chaos, impossible survival, and ultimate discovery. It is the holy grail of Jefferson Nickels, the undisputed king of modern errors, and a testament to the fact that the most extraordinary treasures on earth do not always glitter in the light, sometimes they hide in the dark, dirty depths of your pocket change, waiting for the one person in a billion who has the eyes to see them. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, a secret worth $175 million, and its discovery has forever changed the life of the man who saved it from being spent on a pack of baseball cards. So the next time you get a handful of change back from the grocery store, the next time you hear the metallic clink of coins in your pocket, remember the stories you have heard here today. Remember the $130 million 2013 D, the $140 million 1986 P, the $160 million 1982 D, the $170 million 1970 D, and the unfathomable, universe-altering $175 million 1968 S Jefferson nickel. These coins are out there, hiding in plain sight, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that even pocket change can rewrite your life forever. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey into the world of extreme rare coins. Keep checking your change, keep your eyes open, and never, ever spend a nickel without looking at it first.